for you tonight. That's a cafe here in Paris that that I really like. And it's from I'm sure you've seen the reference photo. It's a photo that I took last summer. So the sky was very blue. The sunlight was very bright. I love depicting these buildings with a lot of sunlight and shadow. It really, for me, it really shows off the personality of the building and the kind of the form of these really interesting buildings with all of their balconies and awnings and windows. There's so much wonderful detail. So I will be speaking English today. I only know a few words of Spanish, so I apologize. I'll be speaking English, but if you have any questions, we'll do sort of a Q&A at the end of my demonstration. I'll talk about what I'm doing as I'm doing it, but I think we'll save all the questions until the end. I think we're going to keep everyone's microphone muted, just because there's so many people here, and the way Zoom works, it gets a little chaotic otherwise. So thank you for your patience. Welcome to Paris today. And let's get going. I've got,
thank you.
Yeah.
So just give me a sec. Alejandra, excuse me, just for a sec. Alejandra. Alejandra.
Sí.
Bueno, entonces entonces va a empezar. Entonces, la idea entonces es que las preguntas se hagan al final. Vamos a abrir una preguntas y respuestas al final de la presentación. Y las pueden hacer en inglés o en el otro o en español, y si no las traduciremos. ¿Ok? Pero entonces comenzamos. Y nos agrada.
Perfecto, gracias.
Ok.
Bueno, entonces empezamos. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Alex. Then you can start. Many thanks again. It's a pleasure for us to have the opportunity to see your work. So thank you, and I'll let you, and then I'll let you the mic to you.
Okay.
I don't know whether you can hear me or not. Oh yeah, okay. There you are. Yes. Okay, so thanks.
Thank you.
You can start. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I'm gonna mute myself.
All right. Okay, so I'm gonna get going with this sketch. I already sketched this in pencil. Sometimes pencil doesn't show up very well on these cameras, so I already went ahead and did it in pencil. I think you can see. I am going to do a little bit of ink work. I'm going to use a fountain pen. I have a couple different fountain pens that I like to sketch with. And I also like to use these fine liners, which are felt tip, very thin felt tip markers that I like to use before I do any watercolor painting. So I have this pen, which is an old vintage fountain pen, and I'm just I've got the reference in front of me. Let's see if I can just sort of get some of these details going. So I am going to just very roughly sketch in some of these details. I'm not going to outline every line and every little window. I just want to kind of hit the main, the darkest areas of this building, the darkest areas of these shadows. I want my ink work to be fairly loose, fairly sketchy. And I'm using a waterproof ink. So when I go over it with my wash of color, it won't bleed everywhere. It should stay fairly defined. We'll see. Sometimes this ink, this is waterproof ink, but it's depending on the humidity of the day and the temperature, sometimes it does bleed a little. I expect it to bleed a little, but that's okay. It's okay. It doesn't, we're not making sort of a perfect illustration. We're just, you know, I kind of want to keep some of the life to these things. So it's okay if some of these details get a little out of focus. I'm using Canson watercolor paper. It's a 300 gram 100% cotton paper. And I'll be using a couple different techniques to paint this. It's watercolor, but there's a few different techniques to use. You can use glazing, you can use wet on wet, you can use some dry brush. I like to mix up these techniques a little bit. You know, I think that when you have a lot of variety in your work, that's what makes it interesting. So I just want to get these main details down, but not, you know, not very precise. I really like things to be fairly loose and kind of, I just want to suggest details. I don't really want to get too caught up in every little thing. Some weird audio going on. Yeah, I will answer questions at the end of this, at the end of my demonstration. So if you've got specific things that you're dying to ask, just save those questions. And
Canson heritage paper?
Yeah, Canson heritage, Canson, and it's rough grain. It's grain torsion, so it's a very kind of rough grain. You can see the, yeah, and I like rough paper. It's sort of, it's a little bit counterintuitive with using a fountain pen, because fountain pens are often, they like to be used.
And the color of the pencil is black?
Yeah, this is, the ink I'm using is black ink.
Black or green?
Black.
Black, okay.
Yeah.
That's the questions.
Oh, okay, thank you. Yeah, this is the ink I'm using is Noodler's Polar Black ink. Noodler's is an American company, but there's a lot of there are different inks, different companies that make waterproof ink specifically for use in fountain pens. So there's actually quite a few things that you can use. That might be enough of that for now. I'm gonna throw in a few extra, maybe this one. So I just want to keep these, again, I want to keep these details very loose. And I'll come back near the end and add more details, but for now, this is feeling pretty good. Okay, that might be enough of my ink pen. put those aside. I'm gonna use some masking tape and just tape the borders of this so that when I paint, I have a nice clean edge. I'll remove this at the end and I'll have a nice clean edge. It's all the way down at the bottom. I'll keep moving my paper around as well so you can see the whole image. I think that the paper is a little bit larger than the camera sees. Is that me? Oh, that is super annoying. Well, you know, I wonder if what if I turn off my, maybe that's better. I always like to mask off my painting after I've done the initial sketch. This gives me a chance to kind of fine-tune the composition. If I want my sky to be a little bit higher, I can move my tape up. If I want it to be a little lower, I can move my tape down. So I always tape after I've done my sketch. Okay, let's add some color to this thing. Let's see. I'll keep it straight. I am going to start, I'll start at the top. And I'm going to, let's see, I just got to get my brush a little bit wet. I'm just going to start with a straight up cobalt blue. I'm using Daniel Smith paints, Daniel Smith watercolor paints that are really, really nice. I've used them for quite a few years. I like them a lot. And I'm just going to kind of splotch in some blue up here. I'm not going to be too precise. There's a little bit of cloud happening. And I want to rub this with some dry brush. I mean, some wet. Yeah, that's pretty good. And then kind of fade it out. The lower we get down on the paper, I'll just fade that out. All right, that's enough of that. And then I am going to, I'm gonna just kind of start with my lightest colors. Or you know what? I wonder if I should just dive into some of this red. It's so much fun. Yeah, let's, I'll just start with the lightest colors on this building. This is a raw sienna, and I'm just going to, I just want some of these colors to kind of bleed around a little bit. Yeah, this ink is bleeding a little bit. It's not ideal, but it's okay. It's okay. So I'm just kind of hitting the lightest colors, and then I'll keep working light to dark. I'll get darker and darker as I go along. Okay. What do I do? I'm going to add a little bit of maybe get a little warmer in some of these areas. I want to vary some of this color rather than just having it be a straight raw sienna. I just want to push in a few other colors just for some variety. This will dry a little bit lighter. The sky is still very wet, so I can have some of these colors kind of bloom up into the blue of the sky. I actually started with dry paper. I started with dry paper and I added water to it. So that's, you can see a lot of this, these kind of hard lines where the clouds are. That's, you can only do that on dry paper. I will keep, well, I'll just keep pushing a little bit of color up into these. While things are still a little bit wet, I'm just going to keep kind of touching some colors up in the sky. Again, this will fade out a little bit. It'll dry a little bit lighter. Okay. I really would like this to be dry before I do much more.
I'm sorry, Alex.
Yeah, I'm just gonna hit this with a hair dryer. So I apologize for the noise. I just want this to dry a little bit. My next step is I'm gonna paint the red of this cafe awning. And I want this color to kind of bounce up into the shadows under this balcony. But I don't want it to bleed everywhere. So I want this to be a little bit drier. So I'm just gonna reach for my hair dryer. So
Alex,
this will just take 2 seconds.
Alex.
All right, it's enough of that. Yeah, sorry, I see some of your comments. I was spraying my palette with just water. I just have a spray bottle that I was using to wet the paints in my palette. So that was, if you heard that going on, that's what that was. Where did, here we go. So, but yeah, I started with dry paper. And then, you know, as I add colors, then I can add water and I can kind of control the flow of certain things happening. Right now, I'm just going to go in with a nice, bright, rich red, and I'm going to do this cafe awning. And this wants to be very, very bright, very vibrant. And I'm going to bring this down. And I'm going to paint where the shadows are. and it'll look like it's out of control, but it won't be. This wants to be a little bit further over here. So I can actually bring this red down into the street if I want. This might be interesting. This is going to be deep, deep shadow in the bottom here, but I just want to get a little, it'll have a little bit of color to this, to this shadow. So that's what I'm doing now. And I also want to, I want this shadow to come up into this, the reflection of this red to come up into this shadow of this balcony. There's this really nice balcony with this deep, deep shadow on it. And I am going to add some red to it, and it'll look like a mistake, but it will all kind of come together near the end. So I just want to kind of be careful about some of these lines. That feels pretty good. This is the kind of, I'll go over this later with a deeper shadow. Actually, now that this is on there, I want to just kind of vary some of this red a little bit, maybe just get some water in here and lighten some of that up, just for some variety within this shadow. Pull some of that up a little bit. I just want variety within these colors. There's going to be a lot of other things happening, but you know, if I can sort of build in some variety right from the start, that's a good thing. Maybe even have this come up here a little bit. All right, that feels pretty good. The red is a Pyrrole Scarlet by Daniel Smith. So it's a really rich, really nice red. Actually, this feels pretty good. Okay. All right, this is gonna kind of dry and mellow out a little bit, and I think while that's happening, I'll go and concentrate on a different part of this painting. Yes, Pyrrole Scarlet, that's it. Let me just check. Yeah. So I'm gonna leave this alone. It's gonna dry for a little while. And so while that's happening, I think I'll come back up and I'll concentrate a little bit on the roof line and some of the other parts of this building. And I am going to suddenly all my water is red. So I gotta switch out some water. I've got plenty. All right, so I'm gonna mix up some kind of a nice gray, blue-gray color for this roof. So I'm just mixing together a couple different colors. I'm mixing ultramarine blue and burnt sienna, and those are kind of this magic combination that makes the perfect color for Paris rooftops. And depending on your mix, you can tip it either warmer or cooler, depending on how you're doing, how much ultramarine versus how much burnt sienna. And I just want to kind of follow that down. There's these little dormer windows happening. I think I need a thinner brush. I'm going to switch brushes. So then one of the nice things about this Paris architecture is the color palette is fairly limited. It's not like Italy or, I'm sure parts of Mexico that have a lot of variety of colors. The buildings are usually sort of this warm stone. The roofs are kind of this blue-gray slate. Often there's these bright red awnings. But then, that's kind of, those are sort of the colors. So, then it's just a matter of finding a little bit of variety within that fairly simple mixture. And then shadow colors are a whole other thing to play with. But the basic sort of set of, the basic color palette is not, it's fairly limited. It's fairly limited palette. So it's, it's nice to play with just a few little things. I'm just mixing up a slightly darker version of the same couple of colors. It gets these, there's some nice deep shadows over here on this side. I can just kind of mix some of that together. Maybe even push that into the windows a little bit. There's some slight little window details. I don't want to get too crazy with details on this side of the building because it might sort of detract from the main center of focus over here. So I can sort of sketch in some of those to make them fade out a little bit. And while I have that darker color, I might as well come in and just do some darker details. I don't want to do too many dark details now yet, because, well, I guess I can kind of skip around a little bit. It's okay. I'm still waiting for this. I'm still waiting for this red to dry. So I'm continuing to sort of sketch around some of these other areas, keeping things fairly loose. I have a very, very fine point on this brush. So I can just kind of sketch, almost use it like a fountain pen, like a quill. Just a few little window details. I want to keep these details very, very loose, very, you know, kind of ill-defined. I don't want to be very precise about them. Kind of the further away from my center of focus I get, the more impressionistic I can afford to be. So as long as I'm kind of suggesting details of windows, as long as they're in alignment with each other, as long as they're following the sort of these rules of perspective, then everything is fine. You kind of read it fairly easily with your eye. Okay, I think I'm ready to. This still feels a little wet. Maybe I'll wait a little bit longer. I've got my heater on. It's fairly dry in here. This will dry quickly. But I don't want to. I can do some other things first. I'll keep moving around and maybe come into some of these windows. I want these to get darker as they go down the building. The top windows are reflecting the sky, the blue of the sky. As we get further down the building, they're reflecting other buildings. They're reflecting the shadows of other buildings, so they're much darker. It's also good if you're painting a lot of windows, you don't want them all to be exactly the same color. So these can get much, much darker down here. I'll do this one later. But the same thing over here. I can just kind of come in and get a little bit of, yeah, that's nice. Is there a reason not to use a hairdryer? Yeah, there's a couple reasons not to use a hairdryer. I think there's sort of a technical, for me, I don't know, everyone's gonna have a different answer. For me, there's a technical reason and there's a more sort of intuitive reason. The technical reason is, I think that when you use a hairdryer, it affects the pigments slightly differently than if you just let it air dry on its own. You can burn your pigment if you're really too intense with a hairdryer, but there is something about sort of forced hot air that does tend to flatten out colors a little bit. I don't quite understand it. I've never done empirical testing, but I do notice a difference. The more kind of intuitive reason for me is that if I use a hairdryer, it really speeds up the process, and I like to go slow. I like to take my time. I like to think about the next step. I like to, you know, painting with watercolor for me is you're really kind of figuring it out as you go along. It's an artistic process, but it's also a very kind of technical mental process. And I don't always know the next step or the next couple of steps. And so if I need to wait for paint to dry while I think about it, for me, this is a good thing. So those are my reasons. You know, other people probably have their own kind of thinking when it comes to that. Okay, this is going to be dry enough. I'm going to go in now and I'm going to do some shadow detail now. This is kind of this underpainting version. It might look a little out of focus. It's a little strange with all these red stripes happening. There's not a lot of definition happening with the colors of this building, but I'm going to start, I think, you know, I'll start with these there's some big shadows that are cast from, there's a building just out of frame on the right-hand side that's casting this shadow onto our building. And it's really this great deep shadow. So that is what I want to paint. And I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna mix up, yeah, this feels pretty good. Again, I'm just mixing up my ultramarine and my burnt sienna to make a gray. It's a little cooler. I want it nice and dark. And we're just going to go for it. All right, here's this shadow is kind of here, cuts down here. And then it goes up the side of this building here. Okay, that's good. All right, this is nice. There we go. I need a lot more paint down here. This needs to be very, very dark down here. Maybe a little cool as well. So I'm just glazing this color, this dark color over this shadow color, over the red color rather. I'm gonna keep, while this is still pretty wet, I wanna keep moving around. Yeah, that's better. So then I want to come in over this red as well here with my same sort of blue-gray color, my shadow color, just to fill that in and make this a nice deep shadow. You'll see the red through this blue, so that it kind of vibrates with that reflected light. And I'll keep coming in and adding details to these windows and other things, but I just want to kind of define some of this balcony a little bit while I'm here. And then also really, I can darken this under the awning. Because this is really where these deep shadows are. There's some windows and some doorways. And I want to make sure that really, oh, here we go, wow. Yeah, that starts to feel better. I'm using a couple different brushes. I'm using some Escoda. This is an Escoda Reserva, which is a natural fiber brush. And this is a Shimoni art brush, which is a synthetic brush. I just got these recently. They're gorgeous. The handles are gorgeous. They're these really beautiful wood, but they have these amazing tips on them as well. I think. And then earlier I was using an Escoda Aquario, which is also a natural fiber brush. I use this for the sky and some of the larger shapes. That's a really great brush. What sizes? Good question. What sizes? Reserva 10, Aquario 12. This one I actually don't know. And then I'll use, I have another Escoda Perla, which is a dagger brush. I'll use that in a second, and that's a 1/2 inch dagger. Okay, I'm gonna leave this alone for now. This is feeling okay, and I'll just keep kind of working my way around some of these other details on the building. There's these other really interesting shadows happening, and I wanted to do this with a couple different brushes. What do I have here? I can use this. With balconies, and there's these other sort of cornices to buildings. You know, there's a lot of interesting detail happening, and when the light hits them, they do a few different things. There's sort of a cast shadow, and there's reflected light. So basically, I'm going to use a warm color and a cool color together to kind of use this to kind of get this illusion of these of this depth on this building. So this is, here's this main sort of shadow shape that happens here. That's a little dark. And it creeps around the building on this side. But then what happens is that, you know, that's a really cool shadow. But then there's this really nice reflected light that bounces up into that shadow. And so I'm going to come in and just hit it with a warmer color. And I'm using a quinacridone sienna to do that. We'll see if it shows up on camera. Sometimes it's a little tricky. But this is kind of, you can sort of see that there's two different tones happening. There's the cool blue, and then there's this warmer orange happening, which is nice. And I'll do the same thing on this next one up here. It'll be a little bit more pronounced because it's a wider balcony. So again, I'll start with a blue. And I'll kind of do some of this. I won't be too perfect about it. And then while that's on there, I'll come back with a second brush and just push in some really warm, either orange or you know, whatever you have. And that's just this light that's reflecting up into that blue. And it just makes things really, really interesting. And actually that blue, I can add a little bit of red to that, and I can tip it a little bit lavender. So that some of these other colors have a little bit of lavender in them. It's just a warmer version of, you know, that shadow color. I'm just trying to build in as much variety as I can. into these shadows. Shadows are always, there's always a lot of color happening within shadows. So I really want to try to replicate that. I could just start to get much darker now with some of these shadows. And these will really start to bring depth, this illusion of depth into this image. Cast shadows, cool, reflective light, warm. As a general rule, yes. There's always exceptions, but yeah, that's how things sort of tend to work on these Paris buildings. The idea is just to add variety into your shadow colors. You know, I don't really want to just paint shadows that are one color. You know, it's much more interesting when there's sort of variety happening. There's things going on in these shadows that make them more interesting. I'm just sort of noodling around and adding some funny little details here and there. I can get some of these windows now that we've got that shadows dry. I want to keep the details of these windows fairly loose. As long as they're in the right place, the shape of them is less of a concern. You know, if you look at these up close, they really just look like little splotches of color. But at a distance, they're all in alignment. Everything is where it wants to be. It's just you know, it all kind of comes together. Your eye tends to mix that all together and read it as what it should be. Just want to add a little bit of lavender into the tops of these because there's a little bit, it's a little warmer than I've done it. Same thing here. This is and I'll do some other techniques in a minute that will really kind of make some of these details pop in a nice way. How we doing? Is everyone doing good? Are you varying the consistency of your paint? Yeah, I am. I'm getting, as I get darker, the paint is getting thicker. You know, I started out very watery, with the sky and some of this building color. And the red was a little bit more intense. Oh, you know what? I need this big old shadow down at the bottom. That is what I need. So I am going to get my thicker Escoda again. I want to mix up a nice dark batch of this kind of gray, cool gray color. There's these shadows again from this building that's out of view, out of the frame, that's casting this really nice shadow. And I want to make sure that that's coming across, and so it's here. Can you see it? Yeah, you can see that. So it's sort of coming across like this, and then down like this, maybe, and then. All right, that's good. And it's the darker your shadows are, the brighter your highlights appear. Just bleed that a little bit. I'll make this really, really nice and dark. What I could do is flick some water in there, just to add a little bit of texture. It's a little wet still, but that's the idea, is just to get a little bit of, actually that's way too wet. I'm gonna do that again. I can maybe scrape into this a little bit. It's a little wet still. All right, we'll keep going. This is masking tape. It's not glue tape. So I'll just peel it off when I'm done. Just want to darken some of these shapes, just so it's a little bit more, there's a little bit of definition between all these sort of planes of building. Just add in a little bit of variety of color up here as well. What's the support you're using? I'm not using a support. My paper is on a block, so you know, it's glued on all four sides. You know, I just bought it as a block of this paper. So it's enough to keep it flat. right, I think I want to just continue with some of these little shadow details. It's coming together. It's pretty, we're getting there. What's the light source on the painting? Well, what does it look like to you? The sun is coming from the upper right and it's shining down to the left. This is a deep shadow under a bit of an awning. This shadow is cast from a building that's just out of frame on the right. So the sun is kind of high and to the right. It's a little tough because there's sort of three sides to this building and the sun is kind of hitting all three sides. So it's a little tricky. Let me see what I can do about that. I can just add some shadow details. There are actually some nice, there's just some kind of molding details on this building that are really nice. And I want to make sure that I get that. Just gonna see, yeah, there's sort of, yeah, this will work. Do you use ink on top of your painting? Yeah, I will do. I'll do a little bit of ink coming up pretty soon. I'm getting there. I'm getting close to being done. But there's some banister railings. There's a few other little noodly details that I will use ink for. Not quite yet, but yeah, I can. I could use a very thin sort of very dark color on a very thin brush, but I think ink does the trick. I might do that now actually because it's feeling pretty good. Oops. My hand in my shadow. I wonder if I could. So I can use this pen, a very thin pen, just to get some of these, sharper details. There's these great stripes on the bottom of the bottom floor of this building that it's nice to do with ink. And there's also these railings here. I could do this with paint. Sometimes it gets a little heavy. you know, this works well. And there's a lot of these banisters have these great wrought iron kind of curlicues, and a great way to do that is just to sort of wiggle your pen around. You know, it looks like a mess up close, but it really reads as a banister railing with all these kind of curlicues and squiggly bits. There's another one here, just a small one here. Actually, this one has one too. And then up top, it's much more delicate because it's further away in the sunlight. Just want to add a few of these little details just to kind of wrap that banister around. And it goes all the way down the top floor of this building. It's hard to see because there's, you know, we're sort of lost in the distance, but that's the idea. So now is when I can kind of move around the painting, adding the details that I left out before. You know, now is when I can sort of see what does this still need? What is it missing? I also want to how do you know when a painting is finished? The eternal question. The short answer is by ruining a lot of paintings. You kind of know when you've gone too far. You don't always know when you've gone just the right amount. I'm getting close. You know, the trick is to sort of listen to that little voice that's just whispering, you know, you're done, you're done. I want to just get a few more, there's some other details up here. Do you work over a flat surface? It's not quite flat. I have it propped up with a little pencil case, so it's just slightly at an angle, but it's almost flat. I do like to have just a bit of an angle. You know, kind of helps the paint flow properly, gives me a better perspective on my paper. If your paper is flat, the top of the page is further away from your head than the bottom, and so that can mess up your proportions and your perspective a little bit, so it's just something to keep an eye on. I'm just kind of working my way around and adding a few darker lines, a few little details here and there, just to kind of emphasize some things. All right, I'm still going to go, but I'm still going to keep going, but I want to. Oh, what's the brush? What's that brush? That last brush. This is a Oh, you know what? I grabbed the wrong one. I thought, it is a Da Vinci. This is a Da Vinci, and it's one of these, I always forget what these are called, but it's made out of two different kinds of hair. Here, I have another one that's dry, and it's easier to see when it's dry. There's kind of this larger reservoir of the brush that looks like a normal brush, and then there's this super long, thin, these bristles that come out the top. Maybe somebody knows what these are called. It's a specific type of brush. They're great for doing very thin lines if you're doing sort of streetcar lines or power lines going across the top of a scene, or lines on the pavement. It's a great brush for that because it holds a lot of pigment, but it gets this incredibly fine tip to it. I forgot a few things down here. There's these very Parisian kind of posts like in the sidewalk to, you're always bumping into them when you walk, but I guess they're sort of to prevent cars from driving up on the pavement. So I just want to add, there's a few of those here. Some other details. Okay, now what I want to do, I want to just scrape into this. I could use, just to have some white highlights, I could use a white gouache, I could use a gel pen, I could use a white pencil. What I like to do is use an X-Acto knife, a really sharp knife blade, and just scrape away the pigment on top of the paper. I'm going to do that in a couple places. There's a few, the sunlight is hitting some of these details, and it's much more interesting. It just is going to give a more sort of three-dimensional feel to some of these details. These are pretty small, but this is kind of what I'm doing. Just scraping in those little white dots. And it just is there's these little, there's all this stonework that's kind of protruding and catching some of the light. This is just to kind of suggest that it's, it's more interesting. Actually, there's some down here, which is, these are the good ones down here. Here, there's one here. Gotta make sure they're symmetrical. And then there's a couple on this side as well. While I'm here, I might as well just I can just get a little darker. That's better. There's also a bit of the name of this cafe is here, written in white here. So I can just scratch that a little bit into my red. Just again, just to suggest, I'm not spelling out the name of the cafe. I'm not like worrying about that. I just want to give a few little dots and details. Yeah, that feels better. A little bit of light up here. How are we doing? This is feeling pretty good. What have I forgotten? Maybe just a little bit of another kind of shadow color that's just a few of these details around some of these windows. Just to help define some of that. That's better. Yeah, I don't want to get too dark on things. It's feeling pretty good. All right, I just want to add a final touch, which are these, there's these very typically Parisian chimney pots right at the top. And they're these terracotta, kind of a terracotta color. So I'm going to come back with my quinacridone sienna and just add a few little touches of color. Sometimes that's enough. Maybe somebody has a terracotta pot on their balcony. Yeah. Just to, you know, break up the, yeah, this feels good. All right, this feels pretty good. I'm going to take the tape off of this because it's feeling pretty done. That's too much, isn't it? That's got to come out. Okay, much better. All right, I'm gonna take the tape off because this is feeling fairly finished. Then I'll hold it closer to the camera so you can see some of the details. Oh, you know what? I wanted to shoot. I wanted to do one more thing before that came out, but too late. I want to add a little bit more texture down here in the street, and I'm going to do that by just splattering in some color. All right, that's better. All right, that's better. Okay. All right, so back with the tape. So yeah, this tape just peels right off, leaves a nice clean edge. And at the bottom, yeah, perfect. All right, there we go.
Wow.
So let me,
Yeah.
so there we go. I can't quite fit the whole thing in the frame at the same time, but I can do a little pan and tilt. So you can see what started as that red I went over it with that darker shadow color. And the idea is that it's that the light is hitting this awning and bouncing up into that shadow. And so that shadow just has a lot of warmth to it. You know, I'll just hold it closer. You can, I mean, it looks fairly messy up close. It's, you know, it's, I really don't want to get too precise about details. I'm a real believer in, you know, the viewer kind of fills in the details that you leave out. So it's much more interesting to me to do a piece like this that's a little bit loose and maybe has some imperfections to it. So how are we doing? So let me see if I can answer some questions. I know that, I mean, I caught a few in, thank you for asking, and I'm sure I missed a ton, so apologies for missing questions. I was sort of trying to read and paint at the same time, and you know, I can't read Spanish too well. That's my fault. So, but yeah, I hope this was good. It was a lot of fun for me. I can't hear anyone if somebody's speaking.
Can you hear me, Alex? Hello?
Just gracias.
Hello?
Can
I use Payne's gray instead of a mixture of ultramarine and burnt sienna? Yeah, if that works for you, you can do that. For me, I don't like Payne's gray. I'm not a big fan of Payne's gray. It's just a very flat, neutral color to me. I much prefer mixing my own grays with 2 or 3 or more colors to get the color I want, and then I can tip it warm, tip it cool. I can kind of push it around and have a little bit more variety with it. But if you like Payne's gray, then you know, that's a great way to go. I also have a lot of tubes of gray, different kinds of gray paint, graphite gray, or you know, Daniel Smith has some really nice different grays that they've produced, and those are nice. They've got some really nice properties. But again, I kind of do prefer to mix my own. Could you say the names of the colors? Yeah, I started, the sky is straight up cobalt blue. The building is raw sienna. This is a Pyrrole Scarlet. These are all Daniel Smith colors, so different brands. Even though they might have the same names, they might have different properties, so just be aware of that. And then a lot of the shadow is a mixture of ultramarine and burnt sienna. I also used a little bit of quinacridone sienna. That's this kind of brighter orange that you see in places. And I think that was it. So yeah. Whoa.
Alex,
texts are going way too fast for me.
Can you hear me? You can hear me. Okay, let's see. I'm muted. Now, can you? You can? You cannot hear me. Oh, shoot.
I can't hear you, sorry.
No.
Am I supposed to do something? Oh, you know what? Sorry, I can hear you. That was
Can
my
you hear me
fault.
now?
Yes, sorry.
There are some people, many things. I mean, that's awesome. I mean, we have a lot of comments, very extreme positive comments, but there are many people that would like to show their work. Could they do that?
I'd love to see your work, yeah.
Okay, Alejandra, hay gente que quiere mostrar su trabajo, ¿puedes manejarlo vos?
Dice Alex que le gustaría ver los trabajos que realizaron, a ver quién quiere mostrar su trabajo para que Alex le haga una devolución. A ver, vamos a ver. Un momento, vamos a ver quién quiere. Wait a minute. Un minutito. Tengo que ver quién quiere mostrar su trabajo.
Very Buriat, dice acá que yo quiera.
Se ve Gaby, a ver. Gaby. Hola Gaby, espera que te doy el audio. Toma el audio, por favor. Toma el audio.
Ahí está. Ok.
Wow.
He's Gaby Terzano.
Very nice. I love it. Yeah, gorgeous.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I think that is too heavy, this part. What do you think?
I don't know. I always feel like shadows can be very dark. It's okay to go very dark with your shadows. That doesn't look too heavy to me.
Okay.
You could, if you feel like it's too heavy, you could just pat it with a paper towel to lift some of the color out. But only if you feel that it needs it. It looks really nice to me.
Okay, thank you very much for the
Very
class.
welcome. Yeah.
I
A ver,
enjoyed it.
Hugo, por favor, ahí está.
Hi, Alex. This is my project. I think that you're a master. You are an excellent teacher, and this was amazing. I think that I have to improve my detailing black lines and use different kind of pencil.
Yeah, a pen or a thinner brush. Yeah,
okay. You are amazing.
Oh, thank you so much. That looks really great. I love it. That looks really, really nice. Yeah, well done. Well done.
Gracias, Hugo.
Thank you.
A ver,
Gracias, Ale.
Urgen, activa el audio. El audio.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey.
No, el audio. El audio, a ver.
Hello.
Hello.
It's two people.
Do you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, thank you very much.
Hey, I think you are a super master.
Thank you.
Yes.
You are amazing. Really, really, really.
Thank
I
you.
admire you so much.
Thank you so much. Yeah, your work is beautiful. Yeah, these are all so nice.
Thank you.
You can see the work.
Yes.
Thank you so much for your tips.
A ver, Nuria. Nuria.
Yeah, so nice. I love how deep everyone's shadows are. These are yeah, this looks great. So good.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. Yeah, when I give workshops and I'm always encouraging people to make their shadows much stronger. It can be, people can be a little timid, but watercolor dries a little bit lighter than when you originally paint it on. So when you first paint it, it feels too heavy, but it dries, over just a few minutes to half an hour, it gets a lot lighter. Mine already looks lighter than when I painted it. But it's the deep shadows that really make the sunlight feel brighter. So I'm always encouraging people to be stronger with shadows. So well done, well done.
Gracias, Nuria. Hola, Maika. ¿Tenés tu dibujo?
Sí, ya está. No sé si se ve.
Más atrás.
Maria,
see
so good to see you.
Gracias, Maika.
Thank you.
A ver, Adriana, si te doy el audio. Hola, Adriana. ¿Podés hablar, Adriana? Te doy el... Ahí está.
Hello.
Hola.
Hello.
Hello.
Thank you very much for the class. I really enjoy it.
You're very welcome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
A ver, Eleonora, hola.
What do you think about my draw?
I think it looks great. It looks really nice. Yeah, well done.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Eleonora, ¿cómo estás?
Hola. Really, I learned quite a lot. Thank you, Alex.
You're very welcome.
Teacher. Thank you a lot.
You're
and I
very
want
welcome.
to ask you something. Which is the place? Which is the name of the of the street?
Oh, that is a good question. Here, let me.
In which arrondissement it
It's
is?
in the fifth. It's in the 5th arrondissement.
In
This
which one?
5, cinco.
5, okay.
So it's in the Latin Quarter. It's
Yeah.
right near a very picturesque square called Place de la Contrescarpe. And this-
Yes, I know it.
Okay.
I know it.
It's a
all
famous, it's a famous part of Paris because
Okay.
Ernest Hemingway used to live in this area. And
Drinking, of course.
of course, yeah. But this view, this is his view. He lived, like, if we're standing painting this picture, Hemingway's apartment is right behind us. So he would look at this view every day.
Yours, not my, not yours, not ours. Yours. Okay. Can you tell me something about this one?
Yeah, this looks really nice. It looks very
Okay.
good. Yeah, I like it. I like it.
Gracias, Eleonora. A ver,
Thank
Betty.
Bye bye, Alex.
Hello.
Bye-bye.
Bye, bye, Eleonora. Betty, hola.
Yes, hello, Alex. Nice to talk to you.
Hello.
Well, this is my work, and I have to tell you that I have your course in Domestica.
Thank
It was
you.
great.
Oh, gracias. Thank you.
Your work is amazing. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, and thank you for painting with me. It's very good to meet you. Thank you.
And what do you think about it?
Yeah, really, really nice. I love the contrast with your light and your shadows. Everyone seems to be doing this really, really well. It just it feels like a bright, sunny day. So I love that. Well
Okay,
done.
thank you very much.
Yeah, well done.
A ver, Mónica, ¿cómo estás?
Hola.
Hola, Mónica.
Ale, gracias. Y
No, por
gracias,
favor.
Alex.
You're welcome. Beautiful. Oh, I love you've really let that red flow down into the shadows. I love that. That's really nice.
Thank you, Alex. Thank
Yeah,
you.
you're welcome. Thank you.
Gracias, Mónica. A
It's
ver,
amazing. Thanks.
acá está Dorito. Hola. Hola.
¿Me escucha?
Sí.
Hi, Alex.
Hello.
This is my painting. I've never done this before. I took your Domestica course, but haven't started yet because of university.
Okay.
But I really like the class, so thank you. It's not really good because I didn't draw it before the class. I did it like right in when it started, but this is it, and I'm really thankful for the class.
Oh, you're very welcome. This is great. I mean, for doing it just in this short amount of time, this looks amazing. So well done. Thank you.
I'm gonna do it later again, though.
All right,
But
cool.
But thank you. And greetings from Chile. I'm from Chile.
Hello from Paris.
You're great. Thank you.
Thank you.
A ver, Conchi, a ver, abrí el video, el audio. El audio. Hola.
Hola, hola. Hello.
Hola, hola.
We are with my mother, both painting and very happy, and it's a great class from Chile.
Welcome. Thank you so much.
Thank you for all. We put some humans there.
That's
working.
good. Yeah, I left the people out. Mine was done during lockdown.
Yeah.
But yours is much happier. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, bye.
¿Qué dijo?
Hola, Clara.
Se nota que usted no.
Pon el audio, Clarita.
Hola,
Clarita,
Ale.
el audio.
Hola, hola, Ale. ¿Me escuchás?
¿Cómo estás?
Gracias. Thanks, Alex.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Sorry, my English is poor.
No, it's okay. No, it's better than my Spanish. So thank you. Yeah, I love the blues in those shadows. That really feels nice. That's really good.
Thanks.
Ah,
Yeah, well done. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Acá está Diego, a ver si reactivás. Hola, Diego. Diego.
Hay un Alfredo que está pidiendo también de Bahía Blanca, Alejandra.
¿Cómo?
Alfredo de Bahía Blanca que está pidiendo mostrar. y después vamos terminando. ¿Sí? In the meantime, Alex, can you hear me?
Yes.
Some people were asking if there is a chance to send their works over email. Is there an email address that you can give us where they can send you their work to?
You know, maybe the best thing to do is to send them to me through Instagram.
Okay. So we'll, okay.
Yeah, maybe that's the best way to do it.
What's your Instagram?
My Instagram is my last name, Hillkurtz. So I'm at Hillkurtz. Hillkurtz. Yeah.
Sorry. Los que quieren enviar el dibujo por Instagram a Alex,
me lo manda a mí, Fede, que me lo manden a mi correo electrónico, ale-greguet@com, y yo se lo mando a Alex.
No, pero lo que dijo es que lo envíen, sino por Instagram y el apellido de él.
Sí.
¿Ok?
Pero que me lo manden a mí también, pues yo hago el álbum también, ¿eh?
Ok.
Ok. A ver, Diego, si activas el audio. Hola, Diego.
Hola. Hola, Alex. What do you think?
Nice. Yeah, very nice. Oh, I love it. Yeah.
Thank you, Alex. Enjoy your lesson.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Your red is a little bit more muted. You must have used a slightly different red, yeah? But it looks really nice. I like it. I like it very much.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you.
Carlos Marino también, y vamos terminando.
Okay, come on, we'll do the last one. Okay. El último, ¿quién sería?
Carlos Daniel Marino, y creo que había otro que vos me dijiste.
Y yo, Alejandra, Alfredo de Bahía Blanca.
No te encuentro, ¿dónde estás, Alfredo? A ver.
¿Qué hable otra vez?
Hola, hola.
Hola. Oh, beautiful. Very nice. Very nice. Yeah, I like it so much. So good.
This is my work. Is your opinion about my work?
Yes. Yes.
If you see, I had painted the car too.
Ah, very good.
The picture.
Yeah, very good. Okay.
It's not very good. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bueno, quiero agradecerle a haber aceptado mi invitación. Te agradezco muchísimo, Alex. Fede, ¿estás ahí?
Sí.
Bueno, quiero agradecer muchísimo, que la verdad fue una experiencia lindísima, que espero que alguna vez se repita.
Okay, well, what she said, Alejandra is just thanking you for this amazing experience. It was an extremely interesting class. So many thanks for accepting our invitation.
Yeah.
And as I said,
es muy especial.
¿Qué dijiste?
En los tiempos de COVID.
Particularly now under the pandemic, right under the lockdown. I mean, this has been extremely interesting and inspiring. Thank you very much.
Todos los que participamos es nuestro tiempo de desahogo y de pasar la
vida. It's like a break for us from and it's just an escape from this particularly at difficult times. You know what I mean? So it was very inspiring.
I'm so glad. Yeah, for me too. It's so good to share with everyone and to meet you from all over the world. And yeah, I mean, we need to come together like this, right? When we can't travel. So many things are going crazy, and it's really, really nice to come together and just share and just be positive for a few hours. So thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, and it'll get better. Many thanks again.
Yes, it will. Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, you are a great person.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
See you another time.
Thanks to you.
Okay.
Bye.
Chao.
Gracias a todos por participar. Envíenme los mensajes y nos vemos el sábado que viene. Besos a todos y nos encontramos. Muchas gracias.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Muchas gracias.
Bye.